Someone Like You by Sparkypasker. Read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 25. Izuku stood in the shadow of a tall building, waiting to see if he could catch a glimpse of his target. It was nearly midnight. Izuku had to stifle a yawn. Ever since UA was attacked, he had been constantly looking for information about the League of Villains. He went out every night and questioned every villain he came across, before calling dispatch to have the sergeant come pick them up, that is. He hadn't gotten much out of them. It was frustrating. Izuku wanted to just pull out all his hair, but that's why he was waiting in front of a 3-story building highlighted in neon rather than out chasing more villains. He had a favor to cash in. A familiar head of blonde hair exited the building a few minutes later. Izuku stood still, waiting for the young man to get closer. "I'm here to cash in that favor," Izuku said as the blonde passed by. The sudden voice in the darkness caused the man to jump and slap a hand over his mouth to muffle his scream. He whipped his head to the side, eyes scanning the darkness, trying to find where the voice came from. Izuku walked out of the darkness. The young man took his hand off his mouth and placed it on his chest. "Goodness, Absent, you about gave me a heart attack." "Sorry about that." Izuku would have laughed at his face if he wasn't so tired. Not that it's not great to see you, but is there something I can help you with?" "Let's walk and talk." Izuku started walking towards the young man's apartment. They walked in silence until Izuku felt they were far enough away from the brothel that he didn't have to worry about them being overheard. After all, what Izuku was going to ask of the blonde would be all for nothing if any customers or the owners or our employees found out. "I want to call in on that favor," Izuku said without preamble. "Well, that was quick. What can I help you with?" the blonde asked. "I want you to tell me everything you know about the League of Villains, and I want you to tell me anything you hear about them while you're at work." "Oh, okay, yeah, no problem." Izuku stopped. "Are you sure?" he asked. "It's not like I'm asking you to grab some groceries. What I'm asking could get you killed. What would happen to your family if you died?" "You seem to forget. I'm quirkless. People talk about their personal and business secrets in front of me all the time because they don't think I have any use for it." "They weren't exactly wrong. Who was I going to tell anyway?" Izuku started walking again. "Well, as long as you're sure." Izuku may have been collecting on a favor, and the man could have easily believed he didn't have a choice in denying him, but Izuku would never do anything that would result in the death of another person. "I am." "Oh, I just realized I never told you my name." I don't want to know your name," Izuku interrupted. The man stumbled. "What? Why?" "It's for your safety. If someone gets a hold of me and tortures me for my contact's name, I won't be able to give it to them because I don't know it." I don't know what to say." "That's okay." "Well then, how about a code name? Like what you have?" "Well, that could work. As long as you don't go around telling people that's your name." He laughed. "No, I wouldn't do that." "Good. Then what name do you want?" How about Nowhere?" "Nowhere?" "Yeah, because then in the hypothetical situation in which you get torture and they ask you where you got your information, you could say nowhere." Maybe it was the sleep deprivation talking, but Izuku laughed as if that was the funniest thing he had ever heard. His laughter echoed off the walls of the surrounding buildings, nearly to the point of sounding deranged. After a few minutes, Izuku stopped laughing with a sigh. He was going to have to talk to Hatsume about adding in a voice nullification system into his mask. He didn't want to give himself away to villains. "That will work. I look forward to working with you, Nowhere." Nowhere smiled widely at Izuku. Me too. Izuku escorted Nowhere back to his home. Along the way, Nowhere shared what he knew so far. Before the USJ attack, the League of Villains recruited as many people as possible. They were able to find out what each recruit wanted the most and promised they would get it if they participated. And they weren't just blowing steam. Most of the recruits just wanted money, and they received the entire amount up front. So whoever is in charge of the League of Villains had access to an incredible amount of it. It was fairly common knowledge among the villain community that Shigaraki Tomura answered to someone he called Sensei. That definitely shows that whoever is in charge, it's not Shigaraki. And unless he's from an extremely wealthy family, he is too young to have that kind of money to throw around. So, that means the money came from Sensei, and Sensei could be anyone. Someone who has that much money would not have a hard time hiding their identity. Unfortunately, that was all the information Nowhere had at the time. Turns out Shigaraki had been injured at USJ, so they were laying low. This didn't exactly give much rise to any more information. After dropping Nowhere off at home, Izuku left to go back to his apartment. He had some friends to talk to. Deku. Is anyone on? Big Brother 23. I'm here. Freakazoid. Me too. I think we're the only ones, though. Deku. That's fine. I was hoping you guys could do something for me. Freakazoid. What's that? Deku. I'm looking for information on the League of Villains. Big Brother 23. That group of villains that just attacked UA? Deku. Yeah, that's the one. Big Brother 23. Why? You're not getting yourself into trouble, are you? Deku. They hurt some of my friends. Freakazoid. Look, I know you're a crime fighter, but that's going too far. These are real villains. They were trying to kill All Might, for Christ's sake. You can't fight them. Deku. If I can find out damning information on them, then I don't need to fight them. I can give it to the heroes, and they can do all the fighting for me. I would be happy just knowing that I was the reason they failed. Big Brother 23. But won't the police refuse to take your information? Deku. If it's good enough, they won't be able to refuse. These villains gain themselves an S rank on their debut. They won't be able to ignore me if my information is good enough. Freakazoid. Well, if you're not planning on fighting them yourself, then sure, I will see what info I can find. I recently picked up a janitor job, so I'm not sure what I will be able to give you, but if I hear anything, I will let you know. Big Brother 23. Sigh. I guess I can help too. I won't guarantee anything, though. I will pass along your message. See if I can find anyone else. Deku. That's all I can ask. Izuku signed off for the night. He smiled as he caught his second win. Any fatigue he felt was gone in an instant. He had it now, the beginning of his network. And the best part? It's invisible. Nowhere had a point. The quirkless were the most ignored population in the entire world. Izuku knew. He had experienced it firsthand, after all. End of chapter. Chapter 26. Izuku walked into the cafe and poured himself a cup of hot coffee. Boss must not have been able to sleep the night before. Whenever that happens, she spends the time awake, baking or brewing the coffee. It doesn't happen often, but Izuku wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Less work for him to do. And he wasn't exactly feeling up to it. But if there was anything that was going to make the day better, it was the fact that Uraraka was coming back. The day continued on like normal, except for the fact that Izuku never had an empty coffee cup. He felt like the second his system didn't have any caffeine, he would drop dead. Not literally, but figuratively. He doesn't know the last time he slept for more than 20 minutes. And because of that, going along with the analogy, he felt like the Walking Dead. He was pretty sure he was addicted to caffeine at this point. Maybe that would make him more sympathetic to the drug users he meets occasionally. That trigger crap is a bitch to fight against. He can't just use his normal hit-and-run tactics. The trigger makes the user ignore any pain they would experience as a result of Izuku dropping down on them. So what he ends up having to do is either run around until the drug wears off or use the user's own quirk against them. It's amazing how often that actually works. It's like no one cares to look below the surface of their quirk. Oh, you can increase the humidity of the air around you? Well, that means not only could you have a green thumb, but depending on how long it takes to increase the humidity, you could also disable electronics. No quirk has only one facet, and that is the downfall of nearly every criminal Izuku has had to actually fight. That was also what he is trying to get the customer in front of him to see. The guy could make flowers appear out of thin air. Well, it wasn't exactly thin air. He takes the nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon atoms in the atmosphere and rearranges them to make flowers. But nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon are the building blocks of nearly every single item in the known universe. Izuku was trying to get him to understand that he could actually make pretty much anything with enough practice. But no, the guy was adamant that Izuku had no idea what he was talking about and just walked up and left without paying. Boss wasn't going to be happy about that. Izuku's eye was starting to twitch. He rubbed his eye harshly in an attempt to get it to stop. It wasn't. The chime above the door rang as Uraraka walked in. Oh, thank Kami, Izuku muttered under his breath, just loud enough for her to hear. Bad day? You have no idea. He rubbed his eye again with one hand while taking a drink of his coffee with his other. How much coffee have you had today? Uraraka asked while pouring herself a cup. Just one. Izuku leaned with one hand on the counter and the other full with coffee. One, huh? Yeah, this one has never been empty, so one. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. So that's how that works, huh? Yep. Cool. The conversation stilted. Neither of them really knew what to say. They hadn't spoken since the USJ attack and weren't quite sure where to start. They felt like they should have been able to just pick up where they left off, but by cutting off contact after a traumatic experience, it made it seem like they weren't really friends, only colleagues that happened to also be neighbors. Izuku wasn't like this with his other friends. Jiro had been sending him music for him to listen to. Tsu and Ojiro exchanged pictures in their group chat about what they were doing with their families. Hell, even Shinso was sending him cat memes. But Izuku had gotten nothing from Uraraka in that time. Did you do some shopping? Izuku asked. You got some new bags there that look pretty nice. Hey, no one ever said he was good at this whole friend thing. Uraraka looked scandalized, then snorted into her mug. Yeah, I got them to match yours. Thought we should have something like those BFF bracelets. Izuku laughed brightly. Something that had been weighing down on his soul was suddenly lighter. So, how was class today? Izuku asked. It was class. But you know what? Aizawa-sensei told us that the school is still going to have the sports festival. Really? Izuku said incredulously. Is that safe? Yeah, the school says they're going to increase security and that the festival is necessary for the students to get internships. Well, I guess that's something, but I doubt it's actually necessary. If they wanted to, they could have students send out applications to the hero agencies they want to intern with. And if the heroes really needed to see what the students were capable of, then have them come in to watch a heroics exercise. You don't need to advertise your students on live television in order for them to catch the eye of an agency. No other school does it, and their students make it high into the hero charts too. Why do they do it then, do you think? If I had to guess, it probably has to do with money. Money? Yeah, I have watched past sports festivals and did a lot of research into UA when I thought of taking the entrance exam. They have the largest campus in the country, and I would bet anything that it also comes with a hefty price tag. The sports festival is a good time for them to get money from advertisers and admittance, but it's at the expense of their own students. It's not ethical. Another thing I found out during my research is that although UA has some of the strongest graduates, they also have the highest number of deaths in the first year after graduation. They even encourage their students to go all out. And then the villains know exactly who is coming for them. It's just not right. But doesn't that happen after graduation anyway? Villains knowing what our quirks are, I mean? It does. But there's a difference between seeing a few couple-minute videos pulled together from news channels after you have graduated and having your quirks showcased for hours at a time for 3 years before you are actually on the streets. What do you think I should do? Uraraka said warily. Try to use your quirk as little as possible, and when you do have to use it in only the most basic way possible. Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks. You're welcome. Now we just have to hope their security is what they say it will be. After all, the impenetrable barrier wasn't even able to hold back reporters. What? When did this happen? A few days before USJ. From what I understand, they never reported it. Something about it resulting in blowback, which I get. When reporters get overzealous, they are always the ones who are the focus of the story, no matter what they were trying to report on. Yeah, Izuku said slowly. Are we sure it was a reporter? Well, who else could it have been? They were the only ones there. They were like a hungry group of sharks, which is called a shiver, by the way. I watched some nature documentaries with my dad when I went back home. Yeah, the second they smell blood, they go absolutely wild. No kidding. Well, be careful. I don't want you to get hurt by any more wild reporters, Izuku joked as the next round of customers walked through the door. He didn't really believe it was reporters that caused the break-in. He would just have to look into it when he got back to the apartment. When Izuku got back, the first thing he did was look through the city's traffic camera map. He was looking for a camera or group of cameras that would be realistically pointed towards UA's front gate. Did Izuku technically have access to the cameras? Nope, he did not. But they weren't exactly hard to hack into. The traffic cameras don't normally catch anything that people would be interested in finding, like an access code to some bank vault or the schedule for a security team. So they don't have the same level of security as a private business or UA itself. Of course, no one has the security UA does, but that's besides the point. Izuku found 3 cameras in that area, one on 2 of the 4 sides of a stoplight right outside campus, and a third down the street pointed in that direction. The camera down the street caught the sight of the crowd accosting students as they walked to class. Izuku fast-forwarded the tape and, for the first time, saw the walls of UA crumble and the flood of reporters enter the school like a ship taking on water. He continued to watch even as the last reporter entered the school, but didn't see anything that would point to who broke the gate. The second camera pointed over the heads of the reporters, but looked at the gate straight on. Again, Izuku saw the students getting harassed, but was able to more clearly see and could even predict, based on their behavior, who was a hero student and who was not. He even saw Hatsume flowing through the crowd, trying to get her babies on TV. Her attitude takes a little getting used to, and the reporters were definitely not used to it, because after just a few seconds in her presence, they quickly backed away and their counterparts followed the lead. This resulted in a path getting cleared through the crowd and other students taking advantage of that. Izuku giggled when he saw the reporters trying to talk to the students behind her, but they were not willing to get any closer to Hatsume than they had to be. And the best part? She wasn't doing any of it on purpose. Literally, all she was trying to do was get her inventions noticed. He could already see the mess she was going to make of the sports festival. After fast-forwarding, he again saw the wall crumble into itself, and the reporters surged forward. But this time, he was able to see heroes flow from the school's door to stop their advancement. One or two were able to pass by heroes like Cementos, Present Mike, and Vlad King, but were quickly stopped by Eraserhead using his scarf to wrap them up. Izuku smiled widely. He was going to have more footage to add to his collection. Of course, it wasn't going to show him fighting or anything, but Izuku was nothing if not thorough. How could he call himself a collector if he didn't collect everything? But again, it didn't show anything about who broke the gate. The third camera showed the crowd from the opposite direction of the first, but was pointed downward slightly. Izuku could just see the tops of the reporters' shoes. It might have been closer than the first, but it still didn't show much more information. Students were still trying to get to class, reporters still not giving a crap. Nothing new from that angle. Fast forward. The wall falls. The reporters break in. Same shit, different camera. Wait. Down in the lower left corner of the screen, there was a long pale appendage that definitely did not belong there. One thing that was not common was people having hands coming out of their ankles. If someone had that as a mutation, they would be so easy to find. But alas, that's not what was happening. Izuku rewound the tape slowly. The finger connected to a hand, which connected to an arm, which was covered in a loose sleeve that looked like it was from a hoodie. The camera didn't catch anything above the elbow, so there was no way to see who it was. At least that was before the hand rested itself against Yue's barrier. The metal of the barrier began to turn brown and chip away, starting from the points where the tips of the fingers touched it. Quickly, it continued to spread. The brown replaced by dust. Eventually, the weight of the barrier couldn't be held up by what remained, and it came tumbling down. Izuku would know that quirk anywhere. He's seen it up close. It was used to threaten him. Shigaraki Tomura. End of chapter.